All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome everyone again. Welcome members of council, members of staff, and of course, members of the public that are joining us here in the chambers today. This is Monday, July the 22nd, 2024. Council is having a regular council meeting here in July. It's been a wonderful day. Looks like we have a great week ahead of us. So we'll hope that we remain prosperous here in our beautiful community. Council at this time did meet in camera at approximately 4 o'clock, and we've just returned. And so we're going to carry on with our agenda. But first, I would like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Tiatunati, the Wendat, and is the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people as part of the intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships, and we ask the Creator for guidance in all that we do. And as always, it's my privilege and honor to say the land acknowledgement voluntarily, as I am the mayor of the Township of Clearview, and it's a pleasure to do so on such a beautiful day. Okay, council, as I said, our agenda, we did have item number 1, which is our closed session. So we're going to move directly to item number 2, our approval of the agenda. And I'll ask for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated July 22nd, 2024 as presented. Mr. Broderick and the Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Are there any amendments or questions? Seeing none, members of council, all in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. Disclose your pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Is there any disclosures by members at this time? If anything comes up during the meeting, please bring it forward. We'll deal with it right away. Council, we will go to public participation period, and it is item number 4. So at this time, please be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview Council or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are to be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting, or any item considered confidential. As always, please remember to share the time with your fellow colleagues and fellow citizens. I will ask for the deputy clerk to advise were there any electronic participations earlier in the day.
No, your worship, there were not.
All right, then thank you very much. We acknowledge that. And so at this point, I will open the microphone. We have the podium and the microphone right here. I believe the microphone is working. If anyone wishes to come forward to the public participation period. Hello. Hi, Brianna. Come right up.
Okay. I've got notes so that I don't ramble past my 5 minutes.
Well, that's okay. By the way, I'm pretty lenient when it comes to the timing. That's just the official read.
Okay, thank you very much. Your worship, council, I stand before you this evening, not merely as a resident, but also, I hope, as an advocate for change. Change that celebrates biodiversity, fosters resilience, and nurtures our community. I have a pollinator garden that my family and I have lovingly planted and tended on what was a very neglected weedy boulevard outside of our home. And we've had that up for about 2 years now. But it is slated to be mowed down by the township as part of routine maintenance. For a second time, it was mowed down last year. Because it was mowed down last year, I've had some dialogue with council and have been requesting an exemption and hoping that it would not be mowed because I do tend it, and it's very important to me and to other members of the community as well. Our garden is free of noxious weeds. It poses no health or safety concerns, and it's marked this year with attractive educational signage, which signifies its intentionality and also connects people with information on pollinator gardens. Given the many benefits of boulevard pollinator gardens and the growing number of municipalities that are encouraging them on public lands, the township's opposition to our garden leaves us and many other community members somewhat perplexed. Pollinator gardens provide important food and habitat for the essential workers responsible for 1 in every 3 bites of food that we eat. Our pollinators, whose abundance is dwindling dangerously from habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate change. These diverse gardens also provide food for songbirds, many of whom are currently threatened in Ontario. A strong network of boulevard gardens helps to provide corridors for pollinators and birds to travel and connect across the landscape. Pollinator gardens nurture soil and strengthen climate resilience. Deep-rooted native perennials are much better at pulling water deep into the soil than turf grass, which helps with stormwater management and flood control. And from what we can see just happened recently in Toronto, that's going to become more and more important as the climate continues to change. These deep roots are also excellent at accessing that moisture deep in the soil, which means that even in periods of extreme drought, these plants can survive and in fact thrive without requiring any water to be watered whatsoever. By comparison, a 10 by 10 foot patch of lawn requires 62 gallons of water for every inch delivered. And with increasing pressures on municipal water capacity, pollinator gardens present an excellent opportunity for water conservation in Clearview Township. Pollinator gardens offer a low maintenance landscaping option, requiring far less time, energy, water, again, chemicals, and fossil fuels to maintain than the average suburban lawn. They add color and diversity to the landscape. And last but certainly not least, they provide opportunities for communities to learn and to reconnect with nature, which is why it's nice to have them out front where people can see them. For all of these reasons, there's a movement among other municipalities to allow, and in many cases even encourage residents to plant boulevard gardens on public lands, including but certainly not limited to places like Wasaga Beach, Guelph, Mississauga, Collingwood, Huron County, Toronto, Sault Ste. Marie, Caledon, Calgary, Vancouver, and so many others. And I would love to add Clearview to that list. As an environmental scientist with a deep understanding of ecology and the environment, I'm advocating for our garden and gardens like it, not just from my own, personal opinion about aesthetics or what have you, but from a carefully considered fact-based perspective. I've been told by council and staff that some people don't like the look of our garden, which is fine. I mean, some people don't like the look of a lot of things. And I totally I get that, and I respect that. But this is not a justification to mow it down, because attractiveness is entirely subjective. And for every person who can be bothered to complain or who doesn't like the more natural look of the garden, there are others who embrace it and appreciate the diversity and the beauty that the gardens, my garden and gardens like it hold. And in fact, one resident told me that looking at our garden makes him feel like he's in an art gallery. So there's a great diversity of opinions where aesthetics are concerned. But there's many reasons beyond aesthetics why I believe gardens like mine should not only stay, but should be encouraged in other places as well. We've been told that those who dislike the garden have also cited concerns about health impacts from the pollen and also about bugs that the garden might attract. The myth that pollinator gardens aggravate allergies comes from a common misconception about goldenrod. My husband, Andrew, is just going to pass around a couple leaflets from the City of Toronto, which dispel this myth in greater detail. But in short, goldenrod has heavy, sticky pollen that is transported by insects and is not easily inhaled because it doesn't travel through the air. Ragweed, on the other hand, which blooms at the same time as goldenrod and is far less easy to see because it's just a little green plant, this has windborne pollen, and it's the true culprit of hay fever, not the goldenrod. And it's not a plant that we plant in our pollinator gardens. As for attracting insects, we are facing catastrophic declines in pollinator populations. So I believe that people should be far more concerned about the growing absence of insects than the presence of the types of insects that these pollinator gardens attract. Creating habitat and corridors for pollinators is critical for environmental and human health, and also for the future of farming. A UBC study determined that Canadian farmers could double their revenue and feed 30 million more people if pollinator habitats were restored across the country. So for all of these reasons, it seems like pollinator gardens are a real win. And finally, and most recently, we've been told that our garden is obstructing sight lines. So we did some research on sight lines, and the guidance seems to state that objects and vegetation within the sightline triangle of an intersection should be no taller than 1.05 meters from the pavement vertically. All of our flowers have now been trimmed to below this height, and sightlines are very clear, approaching from every direction and backing out of our driveway. I hope that the information I've provided here puts the township's concerns about the garden to rest and makes clear the many benefits that it provides. And I would now like to once again ask for an exemption from mowing for our pollinator garden and for Clearview to join the growing number of municipalities that are encouraging the establishment of boulevard pollinator gardens on municipal land. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to speak too? Please come forward and say your name. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, members of council. My name is Paul Eprel. I'm 70 years old and I've been a property owner in Nottawasaga, Clearview since 1974. My wife Debbie and I live just west of Dunedin. So Creemore is our postal address. It's where we shop and get our mail. When people ask me where I'm from, I say Creemore.
I'm sorry to hear that. You should say Clearview,
Well, it's my town. It's my local town.
as is Clearview Township.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, neighbor.
I will actually amend my practice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the signatories to our letter of June 6th to Joel Newman, many of whom are present here today, I'd like to comment on your response dated July 11th to Brenna Lattimore. Dan Perot has stated that he trusts that the township's position on roadside plantings is now clear. To us, it is not. For one thing, he has stated that there has been a further complaint from a neighbor. If so, that would make 2, maybe 3 complaints about the plantings so far. Yet there are at least 57 people who are expressing support for Ms. Lattimore's pollinator verge, as per the signatures on our letter. Therefore, we have to ask, does Clearview need to satisfy the 2 or 3 people who are complaining about the garden, or the 57 who are objecting to the decision to mow the garden down on July 26th? We are objecting on behalf not only of the residents who value the native flowers for environmental and aesthetic reasons, but also on behalf of the beneficial habitat. Furthermore, we have seen no convincing evidence that the verge interferes with sight lines, as Brenna has pointed out. What standards and protocols, we wonder, have been used to determine this? A number of us have driven by to assess the situation, and we can see no issue whatsoever. How do we reconcile these 2 differing viewpoints? 100% unanimity doesn't seem possible, but the overwhelming opinion is that the mowing should not take place and that the marginal dissenting group should respect the wishes of the vast majority. This is what is known as democracy. Finally, while the Provincial Invasive Species Act is in force and sightlines are addressed by the Highways Act, when it comes to non-invasive species and municipal small roads, the province has declared that it defers to the municipality for decisions on these matters. This means that you can exercise your discretion and grant a reasonable exemption for this property. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Are there other members of the public that wish to speak? Mr. Mann, I see your hand in the back there. How are you?
This is unusual for me. I have a compliment to make,
Oh, good.
if those are allowed.
Well, I appreciate that. You've given other compliments in the past.
Councillor Beelan, I want to tip my hat to you. You have undertaken a task to look after the accident rate at the Centerline Road and County Road 9. Good on you. We at Cara feel it's a very important issue locally. In fact, our president was driving home within the last 3 weeks at about 80 clicks, and a person coming northbound on Centerline came right through without a stop. An emergency brake was required, and thank God there was no collision. That's not the first time nor the only time that that's happened when we talk about this issue around town. So what I want to say to you is, well done. It's worth pursuing and worth pursuing hard. Cara is happy to help you in any way that we can, either publicity or an analysis or getting out of your way if that's the most important thing to do. That would be unusual for us too. I guess the other thing is, it does have to go, I assume, to county council, whatever you recommend. We are willing to fund helmets and shoulder pads for both the mayor and deputy mayor when things go to council there, in case you need that extra support. But if you don't, we think the data gathering that you're now doing to really try to analyze how and why those accidents are occurring is a good start. I know you've been working on it for a while, so this is not a new issue for you. But anyway, we can help. We will. We want to encourage you, and we want to encourage council to give very strong support to whatever recommendation you come up with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mann. Appreciate that. Are there others that wish to speak during public participation period? Oh, hello, Jerry. Come on up.
My name is Jerry Housinger from the Sting Alliance Club. And number one, can we have a park bench behind to get us? We are young seniors. We are young seniors. Number two, lot as in Stainer Missionary Church, when the town of the market meets Thursday, shall it be parking lot? Number three, when Stainer meet Missionary Church have school in September, and when it's picked up for kids, lot shall be parking lot.
Okay. Jerry, could you leave your notes with us and we'll take a look at each one of those items?
Yep.
Is that okay with you?
Yep.
I appreciate that. Okay,
Should I hand it to you?
sure. The deputy clerk's right here. She can help you out. Thank you so much, Jerry. All right, good job. Are there further members of the public that wish to speak? Yes, please come right forward.
So I'm Alan Riddle. I'm a resident of Clearview, but also of Creemore, and I'm a couple blocks away.
People are figuring this out, folks. I'm telling you. Thank you.
I walk by or drive by virtually daily the garden. It is not a sightline issue. If you're going to address sightlines, be consistent, address them all. There was a grader parked on the intersection of Edward and Mary Street all weekend long. It was a hazard, and my grandkids live down that road. So trying to get around it, it was dangerous. Wellington and Library Street, there's a trailer parked on the intersection that's been there for weeks. You can't see around that intersection. So if you're going to start enforcing sightlines, do it properly, be consistently, but don't, this is directed. It's one person and you're using a sightline issue. And it's not a sightline issue. I go through that intersection all the time. It's not blocking any sightline off when I turn on that intersection.
All right, thank you for your comment. Are there other members of the public that wish to speak at public participation period? Going twice? Going 3 times? No? Nothing further? All right, well, thank you very much for your participation. Brianna, I do have a couple of items I'd like to mention to you from your comments, if I may. I'm just going to switch my glasses because I'm, having issues here. Brianna, you called it a neglected boulevard prior to when you took over operating it. That was a work site where the road construction was underway to update that road by the contractors that are hired by the developers. So I would suggest to you that the road wasn't finished at that time. So it would be an unfinished work project at that time. So I would say it's not a neglected boulevard. So that's something I just want to point out to you. You talk about it being, that these are low maintenance. I wrote down the word low maintenance, and yet I've observed your property and I've seen that you have beautiful green grass on your property, which obviously creates maintenance, meaning you have to cut that every so often. So the low maintenance is now being moved to the public portion of the property that you're adjacent to rather than on your own private property, which now has your low maintenance on it. That's just something that I noticed. Okay. This has nothing to do with any regulations. And then you talk about aesthetics, and then there are definitely differences of opinions about aesthetics. I understand that 100%. Okay. I want to point out, you made some really good comments about the importance of pollinators and how they help our environment overall. And people think that the township isn't doing any of that. I went out to our site where our future water site is going to be on Klondike Park Road, effectively on the other side of our community from where you live. And there's probably 55, 60 acres out there that has not been maintained or turned over or farmed for the last 2 seasons. And that entire field is a pollinator garden. It's plus 50 plus acres of beautiful flowers, all types of natural things that are growing in it. And there may be some ragweed or whatever that is growing in there too, but there's a huge parcel of land that the township owns that's absolutely acting as a pollinator garden. And one day, when we get this well built out there, that'll all get turned under again, and it'll be back into farming again, which is what the land is supposed to be used for. But for now, there is significant pollinator facilities around our township for those beautiful insects to use. So I wanted you to know that. And I wanted to address your comment, Paul, is it, about how you satisfy the few. If you can figure that out, you want to share that with the 7 members of this house, because we have issues all the time on how to deal with individual issues. But there is something that we do stick to, and that is private property. That's land use planning that we do, your private lands, and public property, on how public properties as assets and how they function, what they serve to serve the best needs of the public. Those are the 2 things we look at all of the lands that we deal with. And so, many lands we have are environmentally protected. Many lands we have are covered with asphalt because they're roadways. I mean, we have lands that we own as a township and as a community spread everywhere, but they all have different purposes. But certainly a neglected boulevard would not be neglected. It would be finished, and it would be with grass on the side of the road. Sometimes they have gravel on the side of them. Sometimes they're paved. Whatever the purpose would be to make the boulevard effectively work within the actual environment that it's in. So we can't make a decision based on your lengthy, your petition with multiple names on it, and then having a few people complain. Like, we just can't make that decision, because it's all based on how we have to look at the land uses, the public road uses, all those type of things have to come into play. So there's no decision been made here. And the last point I'll just want to point out to both the landowners at 220 Mary Street is that democracy. I heard the words about democracy here tonight. Democracy happens when a resolution is brought forward by the elected officials. And so I'm sitting here as an elected official with my colleagues at this table. And when a recommendation or a motion comes forward, that's when we handle it. That's how it's done. That's how it's always been done in democracy. I'm just letting you know that we're following through, and I'm following through as the leader here to help democracy move forward. So we are waiting as a council for a councillor to bring forward a recommendation. So thank you very much for bringing forward your comments, and look forward to you guys having a resolution to your concerns soon. All right. Yes, Mayor. Step to the mic if you want to speak, please. Yeah.
I'd like to address your comment about having it on the boulevard and having grass on her property. She has 2 children here.
Sure.
Should they play on the boulevard along Mary Street as opposed to playing in their yard and putting the pollinator garden in the boulevard, which the sidewalk is on the other side? It is an unused boulevard. It's not used for parking. It's not used for walking. There's nothing that I've seen in the
Again.
bylaws that say it has to be grass. It has to be covered.
We don't have a motion from this table to even deal with this. The staff have already got their direction from their legislative authorities and their responsibilities. All right. So that's the point.
We're questioning that the only reason that it's being addressed is a sightline issue. You have a number of people here who disagree that it's a sightline issue.
Yeah.
I don't think it is a sightline issue. Brenna has stated that it is below the height for sightline issues. So if it's below 1.05 meters, will it still be cut down?
Listen, as far as sightline issues, I leave those decisions to the road authorities. I am not a road authority. None of the members at this table are a road authority. I don't believe you're a road authority.
No.
So the issue is that has to be made by the road authorities.
So my main purpose of coming up here again
Sure.
is to address your comment that I don't think it's reasonable to tell her you've got grass, put your garden where the grass is. You need a play area.
No,
for children
it's
to-
about land use. Okay, there's public lands and there's private lands.
That's right. And so, but the public lands don't have to be in grass. They don't have to be.
That's right. They also don't have to be farmed with wheat on them. As I just pointed out, I got 50+ acres of pollinator plants growing right now.
That's fine, but that doesn't take the place of what they have.
Yeah.
It's in addition to, not instead of.
One other point I want to make too, since you brought it up, Brianna, about complaints. Complaints are confidential and we never know when those complaints come forward. We don't know them. We don't handle them. We don't deal with them. It's not up to us. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just to address a couple of those points, one about having grass versus having the plants in the boulevard. I also have pollinator gardens further back on the grass. I have a huge one. And I accentuate those with a little bit of grass out front. And in fact, I take away a little bit more of that grass every year to put more pollinator gardens. I put in another one this year. The reason it's out front is partly because, again, it is an unused space. And secondly, because that is where I can engage the public. And some of the best conversations that I have ever had with people in Clearview have been right outside in that boulevard when they have walked by and talked to me about my flowers. And that's when I can talk about the science of pollinators. I can talk about why it's important. I can point out which plants are there and what they're doing.
100%.
And that's why I put the educational signage in. So, well, I am fully aware that this is public land and you can do whatever you want to do with it. That's your prerogative. I have put forth many good reasons why what serves the public best is not grass on that boulevard, but is a diverse pollinator garden. And that is why I'm bringing this to you, because things are changing and townships are using their discretion and making these changes all around us. And they're coming whether we like it or not. So I'm saying I have knowledge about this. There's many other people who do. I've engaged with counselors on it. I would love for someone to put forth a motion, but I don't know how I make that happen.
You
I would
don't.
like someone
Just to be
else
clear,
do
that's
it.
democracy. You do not make the motion.
Yeah, but
Comes from
we
here.
are many people, and there's many more than the people in this room who want this to happen and can't see any good reason for it to not happen.
Yeah.
So, and I very much appreciate the pollinator gardens that we do have, and I appreciate the eco park. I think it's wonderful. I
Yeah.
do give you full props for that. But also, it's not enough, and you know it's not enough, because pollinators need to travel from place to place. They need corridors, and some of them don't travel more than a kilometer, some of our native species of bees. So they can't go from that park over there to that park, 5 kilometers away to mix their genetics and, have a healthy ecosystem. So we need urban spaces as well to take up the torch and make this happen. And there's many citizens out there who are willing to do all that work. We're not asking the township to do anything. We are willing to do it. We just want to be enabled to do it.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is that boulevard, if that were grass, am I correct in saying that as the homeowner, I would be expected to maintain that, wouldn't I? If I let that grass get up to here.
And again, that is the aesthetics of it, isn't it?
Exactly.
If you don't like the grass growing there, then you can maintain it or you can ignore it.
But if
But
I
we
left-
will cut it if it gets to a point that
Right,
needs to be
and
cut.
would I be taxed for that?
No,
Because
it's
I've
just
been
part of
told before
taxes.
that if I don't maintain the grass,
No.
then the township will cut it and it will
No,
be.
if
put
it's
up
on the
tax.
boulevard, it's certainly on the boulevard.
Right,
Right.
yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want, I have
Yeah.
zero interest in maintaining grass on the boulevard. So what I have now are
And
beautiful
yet,
flowers.
Brianna, at my home, remember Brenda, I'm sorry, okay? We've talked a few times and I've forgotten it. At my home, I look after the boulevard myself. In fact, I cut it for my neighbors too. Like at my house, you can come by and see it. We have beautiful gardens on our property too. I'd be happy to show you through our garden. So, it's just a matter of aesthetics. So
So
some people like it, some people don't. Some people don't like council. Some people do. I'm just saying.
well, exactly, there's a diversity of opinions out there. So I'm hoping that we can move beyond people's subjective opinions to
Yeah.
what are the solid reasons why this is a good thing and why this is what we,
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
thing that we can do with our public lands. And as
It's
part of our
public
climate
lands.
commitments and as part of our commitments to our environment, this is an easy win. And I'm putting it out there that I'm willing to help with it
Sure.
and that I'd like to see it move forward.
Well,
So-
thank you. To the mic. To the mic. Thank you, Paul.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, respectfully, I think you have an opportunity here to look forward
Mm-hmm.
and take the example of many other municipalities, as Brenna has outlined, who have seen the benefits of this approach. The whole tenor of your remarks, Mr. Mayor, respectfully, was looking backward.
No,
I believe it was.
well,
That's my opinion. Thank you.
thank you. It's been okay, I was just going to call it because we'd already had multiple topics, but please go right ahead.
Renaissance, when I also live in the house, hugely supportive of all the gardens and.
Sure.
What about, we have some beautiful, we came, dug up a lot of grass and planted many things. Just to clarify, I mean, my understanding and, I had a career in the UK, which involved drafting legislation. So my understanding of legislation is that you have powers to be able to do this. And then what you need now is for a councillor to bring forward, to change the bylaws. Even reading those bylaws, I suspect you could still allow it up to a meter. But my understanding is what we need is a councillor to bring forward is to clarify potentially the bylaws, because you have around this room, you have the powers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not about to give you a civics lesson, but it's pretty much what you said.
pretty much.
I mean, the mayor does not make motions. The councilors do. One makes it, I need a seconder, and then we'll have a debate. And then we need a majority of council to pass. There you go.
So you have the legislative power, and the next step is a councillor to bring this forward. And then also we should just clarify that the existing bylaw does actually, because reading the existing bylaw, certainly the 1798, it does appear that it would allow for it to be left as an exemption.
So
Um,
that would be there simply because council gives direction to the staff to do the work. But we give them the discretion to determine if that work needs to happen today or tomorrow or what time or, you know, the effective time of delivery of the services that where council is asking for to be done.
Okay.
So, so the discretion does not lie here. The discretion lies when we offer the authority and the direction to the staff to exercise an activity.
Good. So you delegate the discretion there to
Yeah.
the staff. So
That's why the answer from Joel was very clear in his email. Joel was very good in his email. Yes.
well, the clarity was that there's nothing that requires you in the provincial legislation to do this. The powers are all at the Clearview level, and then you delegate that. So there's a sort of, so what's needed next is change of bylaw delegation, and we'll talk to councillors.
So I would encourage you to have a conversation with the clerk about how that works. In fact, on our agenda tonight, we are talking about the procedure bylaw. So if you want to go read some of the details in our procedure bylaw that are being proposed, which will then, I'm confident council will have amendments to bring forward. Then we'll be passing that in the future, which will effectively change how we do our procedures to get motions on the table. To be clear, the public do not bring forward motions. Thank you. Of course you are. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yes. Good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. Is there any further? Nothing? Okay, then we're going to carry on with our agenda. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Sorry, I have to change my glasses again. I left my good ones at home. Sorry. All right, council, we're going to move on. Deputations and presentations is our next item. We have a proposal, our presentation from Sean Davidson, who is with Carruthers Davidson Funeral Home. Sean Davidson, welcome back to the council chambers. Nice to see you here, sir.
Your worship, counselors, staff, managers. Wow, it's nice to be back.
It
Who
is.
knew that guerrilla gardening would be such a controversial?
I know, guerrilla gardening, really. That's it, yeah.
As a beekeeper, I encourage pollinating gardens. And,
Thank you.
I've been keeping an eye on the well property, thinking it would be a nice bee yard, wouldn't it, Marty?
Well, we can negotiate that.
All I need is a little
All right.
time to set myself up. So thank you very much. I'm here, not necessarily on behalf of myself or my business, but here to speak a little bit about State Union Cemetery. State Union Cemetery is fully managed and operated by Township of Clearview. Your deputy clerk is by definition the manager of the cemetery. Recently, as you're aware, the project was worked on for about 6 or 7 years, including with their predecessor. The west range of the cemetery is now open and operational. That west range has approximately 1,451 allocated grave spaces, which, based on the historical pace of selling of graves and uptake in the community, probably 40+ years of space in that garden to lengthen the use of the cemetery. With the opening of that new range through the clerk's department and with the passing of council, revised bylaws were sent to our regulator, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. And those bylaws were very similar to the bylaws that have been in place in that cemetery for decades. But unfortunately, a historical occurrence was not carried over into the new bylaws. And I take some of that responsibility, as the bylaws were circulated to me as someone that advocates and uses the cemetery on a regular basis. And one of the sections is, and I quoted up there, only the family name plus text, inscription, or picture on the back of the monument is permitted. No given names or dates are permitted. Yet historically, should the lot owner own lots end to end as opposed to side by side, the cemetery has, as have many cemeteries, allowed the backside of the monument to be utilized with given names and dates. This is an economic benefit for the lot owners, so they don't have to put up 2 individual monuments. They can utilize both sides of the monument. So I've included a couple of pictures here of So this is a fairly recent monument. Hoping you can tell that that's using both sides. That family owns a single grave end to end. Another one that's fairly recent. Again, they own four graves in total, 2 and 2, again, end to end. And then I also picked up another picture of a historical monument. Can't really read it because it was raining. But that dates back into the 70s when that 8 grave plot, 4 and 4, was purchased by the Beals family. So what I'm asking today is a proposal to add to section G of the bylaw. And again, this clause has been created in conjunction with the manager of the cemetery, that we replace that clause that I read earlier to what it says up there. No person shall place, erect, install, or cause to be made, maintain, or allow to remain any inscription on the back of the monument which faces an adjacent lot, unless the inscription consists of only the surname and monument design. So that's what was there. The prior consent of the manager is obtained, so that gives the manager of the cemetery some discretion. Or the owner of the monument lot also owns the adjacent lot facing the back of the monument. So again, historically, something that has happened. But from looking at past bylaws, hasn't been in the bylaw for decades. It's just been a operational allowance, if you will, or something that's continued on. So my first ask of council is that you direct the manager of the cemetery to submit revised bylaws to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, post the notices as required, circulate as required, to add that previous clause for the benefit of future interment rights holders. And then my second ask is that this circumstance has come to light because of the family of a young man who wishes to place a monument this summer. And I want to be clear, I am not selling this monument to this family. I have no connection to that personal gain as far as the purchase or placement of that monument. So I would ask council to permit a site-specific exemption to allow this memorial to be placed this summer. The timeline for the revised bylaws to be approved by the Bereavement Authority of Ontario is unknown and sometimes can be quite lengthy. I know this because my wife works for the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. And so I did craft a motion which is slightly different than the motion that was circulated. And since having to put the package together last Monday, we have learned that the family wished to put the monument centered over 4 graves as opposed to just 1 grave end to end. So the only change to this motion is just adding the site-specific exemption to the specific lots. And I've also added another slide that shows you what this family owns and where they want to put their monument. So this is the new section. Mr. Nisley called them tiers, but we're calling them rows A and B. So if you see in the top, somewhat top left-hand corner of your screen, the family owns those 8 graves, 145 through 152. The gentleman a young man who passed away earlier this summer is buried in 151. His twin sister wants to be utilize 152. And they want 149 and 150 for their families. So the little red mark is where they want to put the monument that will have engraving on both sides of the monument, reflective for the people who are going to use 150 and 152, and the other family that's using 149 and 151, but they are the same family. All 8 lots are in one person's name, the father's name, and he's dispersing the interment rights to his family. Any questions about what we are proposing to ask an exemption from council for?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sean. I'm glad that you brought this to our attention. It appears to me a bit of an oversight that we perhaps missed it back in the day when that was being written. So thank you for bringing that forward. Members of council? Yes, Paul Van Starren, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sean, with when I was looking at the picture you just had up there, and you placed where you want to put, we'll call it the four-piece monument. In the past, you would have had two monuments back to back. Is that correct?
No. So, under the bylaws of the cemetery, the monuments have to be at the head end of the grave.
Okay,
Okay, so in this case, that's the west end, so we're looking at this picture, the left end. So under the current bylaws, the family would have to put a monument on the pink line at the top of the 150, 152,
yes,
and then another monument where the red line is right now,
okay.
okay? And then the people in 150, 152 would have their engraving on their stone. And so when you're standing there, if these are headstones, if the engraving on this side and this side, and nothing on the back, other than maybe a bit.
Okay.
So by making this revision to the bylaw, which is a historical occurrence in the cemetery, they can engrave on both sides. They're only having to buy one piece of infrastructure, if you will. We're only pouring one concrete foundation, but we're utilizing both sides.
Do we have this situation very often where families have like at least 8 plots or 4 plots, or is that just an anomaly in this situation?
It's not, I wouldn't say that it happens with great frequency, but I can think of, and I don't think they'll mind, Squire's family owns 12, the Jerry family owns 14. This family have bought 8. The Barnes family, married has 16. So the Laws family, again, they bought 12. And they have put a monument in for Mr. Laws, but they haven't engraved the backside of it. They've left it totally blank for future utilization in this same measure.
So the family would also have full control of those plots
Correct.
till you put in the person you want. They can't resell them to other people.
So
You wanna
under the
speak?
legislation, they can. But once the plot is used, then it cannot be. So in this case, once the monument is put in place, by definition of the legislation under the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, the lot is deemed to be used.
Okay, that's what
So
we're looking at.
20 years from now, they could sell off 145, 146, 147, 48.
Right.
But as soon as this monument goes in, they can no longer sell 149 through 152.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense. I appreciate that. Other members of council with any questions? Yes, Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Your Worship. Being on the cemetery commission for years, I always thought that back-to-back was permitted.
There you go.
So that was something that, you know, bylaws were bylaws and you just didn't, we get into the main ones, but obviously overlooked in the transformation. So thank you. That's all my only comment I have.
All right. Any other members of council? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Mr. Davidson is correct. In our 2015 cemetery bylaw, it is written the same, that it was only no first names and no dates on the back. But in practice and procedure, the board and now the township has allowed those exceptions when it is owners on both sides. I think it's been included in bylaws for uniformity of the cemetery. There is no other specific reason. I can give an example, the West Church Cemetery that the township will be having a transfer for. They allow back-to-back monuments. When we encompass them into our cemetery bylaw, they would be following our rules. I can say the back-to-back monuments where you have a monument here and the monument right there, that looks odd, but the back-to-back inscription can be a concession that works for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much for that. If there's nothing further, don't go away, Mr. Davidson. Thank you for being here. I do have an unusual request of council. I'd like to bring a motion forward immediately that would then allow, if the motion passes, it would give permission for this family, as Mr. Davidson points out, to deal with the immediate concern. And so if council's agreeable, I'll read the motion and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Unless there's any other questions of Mr. Davidson. Seeing none? Okay, I have a motion. The clerk worked on this. We had a talk about this afternoon, and so that's why it is a little unusual, but we'll bring it forward at this time. Be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby direct staff to bring a report forwarded to the next meeting of council with a proposed amendment to the cemetery bylaw 2401, permitting the engraving of given names and dates on the back of a monument only if the interment right holder is the same as both burial lots. And that the cemetery operator in the interim has the authority to grant permission to engrave names and dates on both sides of the monument until the cemetery bylaw has been amended and approved by the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. Is there a mover and second? Madam Denise, you're comfortable? I'm just wondering, you're flipping around there. I just want to make sure you're comfortable. You'd like to move that? Thank you. Mr. Walker, would you like to second that? Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you like to speak to it first? And then we'll maybe ask for questions.
Thank you, Your Worship. So kind of in conjunction, if council passes this motion, we do have some further amendments that we need to be made to our cemetery bylaw, including the addition of the West Church Cemetery as one of our operating cemeteries and our scattering garden that we have now partnered with Awake Canada for. So there are a couple amendments that we want to do, but to get business moving, and thanks to Sean's kind of in with the BAO, we know that the timelines could be long for them to review. So this motion gives us permission in the interim to move forward with the business without being impeded by waiting for approval from the province in that form or fashion, and to allow all of our amendments to come into a bylaw before we send it off to the BAO again.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of council, any questions to the clerk? Seeing none? Yes, go ahead.
Madam Clerk, in your motion, or the mayor's motion, it mentioned the 2 lots. In this case, we're dealing with 4 lots with a point on the headstone or whatever. So should we amend that in the future, if we have to, that they can either have 2 or 4? Or do we even want to be looking beyond that, Sean? Is it something that we need to talk about now?
Well,
Go ahead, Sean.
sorry, thank you, Your Worship. So through you to the deputy mayor, my sole purpose is just for this one site-specific exemption for this summer, knowing with my communications with the clerk and the manager of the cemetery that there are some other housekeeping issues within the bylaw. So by next summer, next monument season, if you will, things will be in order. But this is
I'm just thinking going forward in the future, because you mentioned like the laws, for instance, or the squires who have multiple lots.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
should-
in our bylaws currently, there are cemeteries have size restrictions based on the property that you own.
Yes.
So when you own 4 or 8 or 6 in a row, 6 or 8 in a row, there are regulations of how big of a stone you can, the monument you can be on. So that's already controlled in the bylaw. It's just the engraving. So if this family, as an example, wanted to put up one massive monument that went over all 4 of those graves and engrave on both sides, the intent of the bylaw would permit that once we make the change that allows names and dates, given names and dates on the backside.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other members of council? Madam Clerk, nothing further? Council, you've got a motion in front of you with the mover and seconder. I am prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Davison, thank you for bringing this forward. And I also appreciate the fact that you work very well with our manager of cemeteries and keep us informed of changes in the interment world. So thank you for bringing that forward.
You're welcome.
It's a piece of experience that perhaps our staff all don't have, and I'm glad from the community point of view, you're there to help our community. So thank you. Yes.
One little thing, Sean, you heard about our new gardens that we're going to be putting in there. While you're here, do you want to talk about them at all or give us guidance? Are we going the right way, or what's your thought on it?
Yeah, scattering garden. So one of the myths, if you will, for decades has been that you're not permitted to scatter cremated remains. Well, the legislation is actually reverse of that. You can scatter cremated remains anywhere in the province of Ontario on public or crown lands with nobody's permission, and on private land with the permission of the landowner. So when we think of private lands, we think of a private golf course or, somewhat public lands, but still private. you cannot bury cremated remains anywhere but a licensed cemetery. So taking your loved one's cremated remains to the cottage and digging a hole is illegal, where walking around the property scattering them is perfectly legal.
Ah,
Who knew? Who
So, so, yeah,
it's in the interpretation. I get it, yeah.
but it comes down like everything with
Yeah.
bylaws and other things we've talked about already tonight.
Yeah.
It comes down to enforcement,
Yes.
right? Who's ever gonna be able to enforce those type of things? So there is a scattering garden in Clearview Township. At the
Yes.
Church of the Redeemer, now Holy Trinity or Holy Clearview.
Holy Clearview Trinity, yeah.
They have a scattering garden along the side of the church, have a nice large plaque area on the side of the church where people can get things engraved and so on. Innisfil Cemetery has a large scattering garden around a large water management pond. The pond is there for future fire issues, not for stormwater or so on, but it's place burnt down. So now after it burns down, they put it in a pond, store some water. But the uptake is questionable, and I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus or be negative towards it. Because of the leniency of scattering on public or crown or private lands, getting someone to pay a fee to scatter in a licensed cemetery is a bit of takes some negotiating, so to speak. But the benefit to the scattering garden is it now gives a place for permanent memorialization, right? So Grandma said she never wants to be, I don't want to be buried, I don't want to be put in the ground. This is another option for that family, that they can be scattered in amongst a beautiful pollinating garden or whatever that you have there. Roses do really well in that type of soil because of the high nitrogen content of the cremated remains. But more importantly, you can put some type of memorial or monument that then everybody's name, each person's name can be engraved on as they're scattered. So that creates a revenue source for the cemetery. It creates a permanent record, because currently under the Registrar General's regulations, 85 years after your death, files are expunged. So government doesn't keep record after 85 years after your death. So the only place that there's a permanent record of your existence is in the cemetery records, because the legislation does not allow you to expunge any records of a cemetery. So again, not a lot of people know that. Are people going to care, right? It's 85 years after your death. Typically, they say you're forgotten after 2 generations. So, but cemeteries are a historical element of our community and of any community. And they have an indelible place in our community. And this municipality, this council has done a good job of embracing the value of our cemeteries. And whether you're being forced to take on the management and ownership, whether that's happening or not, I think the staff here is embracing it and is doing the best they can with the resources we have to keep these sacred places in our community. And
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. That sure gave us an eye opener. That question, a simple question, that sure gave us a good education. And as
I
one
have a
who,
tendency to go off.
that's okay. We would have stopped you if you went too far.
That's okay.
But as one, I
Use
decided,
the gavel.
Yeah, well, it's right here in front of you, just in case you forgot. That's all good. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Marty. Marty, you had something you want to ask? to
Yeah,
Sean?
thank you, your worship. Mr. Davidson, are you spending honey yet? Because I won't be till next week, I don't think.
Well, I'm putting in some skateboards tomorrow morning.
So am I then. Okay, well, even then.
By the
Okay,
weekend, we'll have some fresh liquid gold.
perfect. Same as me.
Are you put,
You're right.
Martin, are you be prepared? G&E. We're going head to head, buddy.
Okay, here we go. Head to head on the best honey in Clearview Township.
I got the red ribbon for my liquid
Okay.
last year. I got second for my cream, so
All
I
right.
got fourth in the regional, so
Okay.
I didn't make it to G&E or to.
All right. Again, wagering is not permitted. So
Bang your gavel now.
thank
It's
you.
all about bragging rights.
All right. Mr. Davison, again, thank you for joining us here tonight.
Are we,
Glad
did you call the vote?
the vote's been called. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean. Nice to see you. No, no, you can abandon the podium at this time, but anyway, there you go. Thank you so much. All right, moving on in our agenda. No, participation is completed at this time. You can always send an email anytime you like. Okay? Well, we have had a good debate. We've already moved on in our agenda, so you've had the opportunities. So remember I asked for second and third time? So there you go. I appreciate you though, but thank you very much. I tell you what I would like to do. I see that you're still waiting. I'm gonna just say this to the clerk without her even knowing and to council. I think right after we do our ward reports, I'm gonna call a brief recess and have our clerk an opportunity to explain some of these procedures to our members that is here waiting, okay? So we'll have a brief recess. It's okay. It's all right. We'll have a brief recess. You can do that. It'll only take a moment. Thank you. Members of council, we're going to move on. We do not have a public meeting, so approval of our council agenda. Be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby approve the minutes July the 8th, 2024 council meeting as presented. Mover and seconder, Mr. Broderick, Mr. MacArthur. Any questions about the agenda? The minutes. Nothing? All those in favor? Should I put my other glasses on? Maybe I should, eh? All right, business arising from the minutes, if any? None? All right, communications from the mayor, if any. There is no specific press releases or information that came in this brief period of time. We do have to go to item number 9.1, which is our closed session report. Closed session report. Council did meet in closed session, as I said earlier. I have two recommendations that came out of our closed session, so I'll look for mover and seconder on each of these. Recommendation, be it resolved, Council of the Township Clearview hereby direct staff to act in accordance with the direction provided in closed session regarding the HR staff policy review. Could I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Walker, Ms. Deneen, thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor? And that carries unanimous. The next one is a property lease. Be it resolved that Council of the Township Clearview hereby direct staff to act in accordance with the direction provided in closed session regarding the proposed property lease. Mr. Beelan, thank you. Mr. MacArthur, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, that carries. Council will move on. County report, there are no information in county report either. It was actually a pretty quiet week. So we'll move right to our ward reports, which is what I was mentioning earlier. I've kind of lost track because my little piece of paper is gone. Who wants to go first? Walker, you're up.
Thank you, your worship. Being the summer, we don't have our board meetings till September, but the last couple of weeks, July 16th, opening of the joint fire hall public works building in New Lowell. That was a great day, and what a wonderful building, and on a wonderful site that we have down there. So that's great. On the 17th, I attended the mural unveiling with the Chamber of Commerce at our joint building on Huron Street. Again, wonderful artwork from the students and Angie Green from the Standard Collegiate Institute, and a joint venture with some multiple partners to make that happen. Thank you. And yesterday, I had the privilege of taking my dirty van to the Station 1 firefighters car wash.
Yes.
And living on Sunnydale Street on the construction zone, I wish they would do it again today. But anyways, they had a good number there, and I hope that they were able to be very successful in their quest for funds to help with the feeding of families, I believe is what it goes towards. So great participation from the firefighters, and I thank them for that job well done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, your worship. Before I do my ward report, I wish Mr. Mann was here. I'd like to thank him for his comments, but I want to comment that he doesn't always see the work that's being done behind the scenes. I know the mayor and the deputy mayor are working hard on the issue about the intersection. I know when I first got elected, I met with the mayor and the deputy mayor about putting in bigger stop signs and the flashing lights, and within weeks they were there. So I know you guys are doing your work and stuff. Maybe he doesn't appreciate it. I feel kind of funny that he was thanking me for what we were doing. We really haven't done anything. We're just getting the ball rolling out there. My ward report, I wrote one somewhere. Basically, it's the same as Moose's, I think. January 11th, I attended the SCFA barbecue in Elmville. It was very good. It was a good time. July 12th, the next day, another barbecue at Walker Aggregates in Duntruin, and it was fantastic. July 16th, attended the same thing in New Lowell. It was a good time. July 17th, the station on the green had a meeting. The outside of the building is all painted now, and it looks pretty good. And then yesterday, this is something special. July 21st, I was invited by the GTAA, which is the Georgian Triangle Anglers Association, to be a guest speaker at their meeting. They were hosting a Ontario Federation of Agriculture or Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters zone meeting. And since it was the first time it was held in Clearview at the Nordic Highlands ski thing there, they wanted someone from Clearview to tell them about Clearview. So that's what I did. That's it.
I got word that you were there and I appreciate you representing us so well. Thank you very much, Marty, for doing that. Yes, Phyllis Deneen, how are you, Counselor?
It's fine, thank you very much. How are you, Mayor?
I'm well.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. I was away, so I missed the first two barbecues, but I was at the Joint Operations Center open house. It was really a nice get together. And I also was at the mural unveiling, and the kids and their teacher did an amazing job. And thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for the presentation for them and the cake, and it was a really nice ceremony there as well. The only part I have from my ward is if anybody's out and about, take a drive past the Nottawa Hall, the Nottawa Memorial Hall, and take a look at our new front vestibule that's been put on. It's taken shape. It's just waiting for the tin on the roof. The drywall, I think, was completed today, and yeah, it's really looking nice. So if you're out and about, take a look. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And you're right, it looks great. Deputy Mayor, do you want to go next?
I sure can. Thank you. For most of the people are aware, the county does not hold any meetings over the summer, over the month of July. So I really can't say anything about our meetings that way. But like most people, you would think all we do is go to barbecues, but that's not the case always. As was said on the 11th, we did the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture at Landcrest Farm over on the 10th of Floss. Great opportunity. A lot of our staff was there. It was great for to meet our federal politicians. We didn't have any of the provincial politicians there, but a lot of the federales were there, and had a good time to see a nice operating dairy farm. Next day was Walker Aggregates, and if you get invited again, please go there. It's a really good place to meet people and see what Walkers do there. We then, on the 16th, we had our grand opening, which was, everybody was the new fire hall in a Joint Operations Center in New Lowell. The mural unveiling, and we had cake there, so it was kind of nice. We didn't have a barbecue. And then this past Saturday, I had the privilege of presenting to the gentleman 2 doors away and his wife, J&R Cycle, had their 45th anniversary. So John, congratulations. The hospitality was there. It was very nice to see people, see the community who came and went. I had the opportunity to speak because the mayor wasn't expected to be there. However, he did show up and had to be a listener instead of a participator, which was nice. We did get some pictures. And so that was nice. And a lot of the other counselors were there. Counselor Deneen, our clerk was there even. And I don't know if any of your husbands brought anything home, but it was, John, you can work on them. That's okay. And then my wife, we were farming yesterday. We were combining. So, but my wife did take her car to the fire hall to get cleaned. And so she did appreciate that. So anyways, that's my bit for the community.
Thank you so much. And thank you for representing me at the event. It was good to see you speak there, sir. Thank you. Mr. MacArthur, how are you?
Very good. Thanks, your worship. So rather than sound like a broken record, I pretty much attended everything that everybody else attended. So I won't bore everybody with all the details. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I was thank you also for your bringing the horses to the Music Market and Market last week. Good job. It was great to see. Now, Mr. Broderick, you had a busy day. Tell us how you feel on a Sunday after the Saturday's big event.
Oh, we went ATVing
Oh,
on
of
Sunday.
course they did.
Well, thank you, your worship. And thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your presentation. And but to start at the start, July 9th, I attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce Executive Meeting. On the 11th, attended the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture's annual barbecue at Landcrest Farms. And you got to see their fully robotic and automated milking parlors. That actually brought back some memories for me. As a child, we actually had we installed the very first milking parlor in what was then Osprey Township. So it's really interesting to see how technology has moved on and how that actually affects the operation, making it far more efficient and productive, actually. We also got to see live drone operations on the farm as well. On the 12th, attended the Walker Industries annual barbecue and facility bus tour. We even got to see a shotgun, which is quite interesting. July 16th, attended the grand opening of the Clearview Joint Operations Center in New Lowell. And I got a complete tour of the facility. Very well done. It looks like it's going to be quite an asset for Clearview. July 17th, attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce mural unveiling at the Clearview Tourism Building. And it was really so gratifying to see the fruition of all of the spirit and cooperation that went into that project exemplified. And the students that painted that mural, I think, really captured the heart of Clearview Township. July 18th, attended Music Market and Market. And on the 20th, hosted a local businesses anniversary party.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. Again, congratulations. What a great event. It was a pleasure for me to be able to show up. I did not know I was going to be able to attend. And so I was happy to see that Dale and Lisa McBride, who had a beautiful wedding, conveniently arranged that they would go off site and go have their photographs taken, to which I looked at MP Dowdle and I said, let's go up to John Broderick's and John and Rhonda's right now. He said, sure. So we all jumped in the cars and drove up. So it was great to come and join you.
So did you guys bring the warden of Simcoe with you? Or was that
The
his-
warden was on his own. It was so great to see him there. So thank you. Anyway, congratulations again though, for all the great things that you're doing. Good job, John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of quick items I'll just bring up. I do want to mention Walkers. What a great organization and a great community, or sorry, sort of a corporate citizen they are. They continue to employ a great number of people. They provide a resource that is certainly needed in the maintenance of our roadways, as well as the building of our roads and buildings of our buildings with the aggregates that are produced out of there. They have aggregates that go right across the country. Some of the aggregates end up in products that go right around the world that come from Walker's Quarry. So it's quite nice to be there for that event. I do want to mention the mural. There were two young students who were there, and I believe their picture appeared in the paper. Good job for the chamber putting that together. However, I do want to acknowledge there were several other students that also participated in painting that. So didn't want to mistake that it was only two people who painted it. There were several students at that Stainer Collegiate who participated, and it turned out really great. Congratulations, and thanks again to Home Hardware who contributed to that, J&R Cycle, of course, and the chamber. Good job. I do want to mention also the Station One car wash. I snuck up there for a minute with my car that was quite dirty. I've been over in Gray County, actually driving on Gray County roads, and I literally went straight to the car wash, and it was great to see them. Had a hot dog, saw some great people. It was really good. Good job to the firefighters as always. And I do want to mention that also on Sundays in our community, something that's becoming a really big success here is the Village Green Music in the Park that's happening at the Village Green down in Creemore. The Sherry Jackson Band was on yesterday, and they've got other bands coming for the rest of the season Sunday at Village Green Park. If you've got some time to drop by and see that, that's a really great operation that's going on there. Yeah, the Mudmen are coming. Yeah, that's. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you're practicing, right, Robert? Yeah, but you're going to join them on stage, right? I'm sure you are. That's good. The Mudmen, what a great show. All right, well, that's really all I want to mention. Coming up, there will be, county council will be meeting in August. We do have a virtual meeting in August. We're not meeting in person. And later on in August, many members here are going to be attending the AMO conference, and we'll see you all in Ottawa. Anyway, that'll be a good time. Mr. Walker, you're looking after things here again? I guess so. That's good. Yeah, that's great. All right, council. As I said, I would like to ask for a recess. So it is exactly whatever. Well, let's just say this. We are going to reconvene right at 7:00. Okay? We're going to have a brief recess. Thank you. All right, council, if clerk could just advise me when we're ready to go, we'll get through our public works. We are ready to go? Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for that brief break, but thank you, members of council, for giving us the opportunity to have that recess. Council is going to carry on. We're on section 12, which is our department reports and bylaws. So our first one is Public Works PW 021 2024 sidewalk reconstruction tender results. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township Clearview hereby receive report PW 021 2024 sidewalk reconstruction 2024 tender results and award dated July 22nd, 2024, and item number 1, the council award the tender submitted by Royal Crown Construction in the amount of $137,241.53, excluding HST, for the sidewalk reconstruction project. Can I look for a mover and seconder on this motion? Mr. Beelan, thank you. Mr. Walker, thank you. And let's see here, Baz DeCanish. Hello, Baz. Nice to see you today.
Good evening.
Glad you could join us. Do you have any comments you'd like to speak to in regards to the report?
No, I don't have any further comments. I'm here for any questions or concerns with regards to the report.
All right. Thank you very much. Members of council, do you have any questions to our staff? Yes, I see Marty. Go ahead, Marty.
Thank you, Your Worship. During the break, I asked our finance person, Kelly, a question, and maybe you can explain what I asked.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
Kelly, here's your chance.
Thank you, Mr. Beelan, through your worship to you. The question was basically for our OCIF funding. Is it a per project funding or is it a total, here's the funding, you decide what to use on? And it is in fact, we will receive the whole 100% of the OCIF. If this project doesn't use the total, it can be reallocated to different projects or carried forward to a different year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, did I see your hand?
Yes, thank you, worship. Baz, we haven't worked with this company, has not done anything in Clearview, from what I'm seeing on the summary. And we have checked, so we have thoroughly checked out to see what type of work they do.
Through your worship. Yes, they have done previous extensive work with surrounding municipalities, one of which is the township of Bracebridge. And all as highlighted in the report, we're satisfied with their works.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any other members of council? Yes, Mr. MacArthur.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Quality Property Service should be put on a banned list or something, because either they missed something or they're just throwing darts at the wall.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to comment, but thank you for that. Members of council, anything further? Seeing none? All right, council, you've got a motion with a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call a motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much, council. Legislative services. We have the procedure bylaw review and also a process. I'll read the recommendation. Be it resolved that Council of the Township Clearview hereby receive report LS 024 2024. It's the procedure bylaw review process and council feedback dated July 22nd, 2024. And item 1, that council provide their comments and feedback on the draft procedure bylaw attached as Appendix B to this report to the clerk by August the 6th, 2024. A mover and seconder for the floor. Mr. Broderick, and seconded. Miss Madam, where are we? Oh, MacArthur, there you are. Thank you very much. All right. Now I'm just looking to see who's got their cards up this time. Let's keep moving along. All right, we've got a report. We're going to move her in seconder. Madam Clerk, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to kind of get underway this process of moving forward with our procedure bylaw. So this feedback that we're going to receive from council reviewing this first draft will help streamline our discussion during our council meeting that I'm hoping to propose sometime in August, probably just after AMO, looking at vacations and everything. It doesn't mean that council can't bring other comments to that meeting, but it's just a nice starting point to streamline some of the specific comments so fellow council members can take a look at them prior to the meeting and the public as well. We will do public engagement. I know at some special council meetings, we don't normally, but we will have a public participation period during that session, just to see if there's anybody else from the public who would like to speak on some of the proposed amendments, just to give that other public engagement. We will also send the procedure bylaw draft that you see in this report to also our committee and board members to see if there's any suggestions on their behalf that they would like to bring forward that we can address with council during that time. So it isn't a be all to end all to have your feedback on this form, but it just helps us with the PowerPoint and to discuss some of those hot topics council may want to change or add. So.
Right. Any members of council with any questions to the clerk? Yes, go right ahead, Paul.
Thank you. It's more of a comment than a question. And I just encourage my fellow counselors. I read every one of those pages so far and I learned a lot.
Sure.
And for those of us who had the steep learning curve to come on council, there's a lot in there and it reinforces what we are doing, but you learn from it what we could be doing possibly differently or changes. So I just encourage everybody to read it because it's a little dry at times, but it is good stuff in there. So, okay.
A little dry.
Thank you.
Fair enough on the little dry comment. Yes, Ms. Deneen.
And I just want to apologize to the clerk's office for not sending in my ward reports ahead of time. Never. No.
All right. Members of council, anything further? Nothing further? Nothing further? Madam Clerk, I'll just put out a couple of questions to you, if I may, about the report. You and your staff, I guess, worked on this together. And can you just give me an idea of the perspective that you took when you prepared the whole procedure bylaw recommendation? You know, from what basically from what position were you writing this? Obviously, you're a professional, so you wrote it as a professional. But you know, what was your hope to have this changed?
Thank you, Worship. So our current one is from 2012. It has had quite a few amendments. So the formatting is quite kind of disjointed. So our main focus was to make it an easier read, as dry as it might be, an easier read so people could easily go to different processes. We've also been listening at council meetings. A key one, I'll bring this up, is emergency council meeting. We keep using that, and I know the mayor doesn't like that word, and it doesn't make sense for a lot of those meetings that we have for emergencies. So we've been listening during council meetings to see what works in practice. We've also reviewed other procedure bylaws for other municipalities. Not to say exactly what they're doing works, but usually when you see different amendments to theirs, an issue has arose. And so we like to include those in our bylaws so that we don't miss if that issue does arise. We've added some more parameters around public participation, having it clearly written in there, the decorum of public participants. So it's really starting from a framework of other municipalities, what we currently have in there, reformatting it and listening it to council during council meetings as things that are kind of hiccups for them and including it. But this is why the workshop's going to be really good, because maybe the wording isn't right, or maybe you guys want to add extra clarity. It's your document, it's a living document, so we just want to kind of get it up to date. And there'll be amendments to this one as well, but we want to engage as many council members and committee and board members and the public as possible to make it work for what we're dealing with right now, so.
Okay, well, that was a good commentary on it, because it is true that a document is quite old. It does need to evolve as legislative changes come to us from the province. It also needs to evolve as we learn better ways to communicate and use the tools for communication better. So I think that it's a good start, and I really look forward to hearing from comments from councilors, and I look forward to comments from the public on this for sure. But given the document is something that helps guide the procedures of those elected officials as well as those volunteer board members, I would ask that perhaps the clerk's office use our email contact list to contact all of our volunteers to make sure that they're fully aware of this and that they can appreciate the importance of take a few minutes and review it. And not to say that they need to do it at their meetings, but perhaps like individuals that are helping our community as volunteers, they can see the value in helping to put some time in on this as well. So that's really all I have to say, but I'm looking forward to having a full discussion about it and about the different roles and the procedures and the activities that we need to do to deliver good governance here at Clearview Township. Members of council, if there's nothing further, I've got a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. Moving on, we have a couple of bylaws. This one is the amendment to the sign bylaw that we reviewed weeks ago, I guess. So let's look at this bylaw. Be it resolved, bylaw 2450, being a bylaw to amend the sign bylaw 2043 to allow for a streamlined permit approval process with respect to wall signs and ground signs, and to delegate variance decision-making power over to the Committee of Adjustment, be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on the 22nd day of July, 2024. Mover and seconder, please, for this bylaw. Mr. Van Staveren, Mr. Broderick, thank you. Any questions? Nope, seeing none. How about I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Okay, another bylaw. Here's a good one. We would like to appoint our deputy treasurer. So be it resolved that bylaw 2452, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy treasurer for the township of Clearview, be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on the 22nd day of July, 2024. Mover and seconder, it'd be Deneen, thank you, and Beelan, thank you very much. Before I call the motion on the bylaw, I will ask if our treasurer would like to introduce us to the person that we're speaking about. Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the rest of the council, I'd like to introduce you to Celine Anderson. Celine comes to us with a vast majority of experience and knowledge and hit the ground running faster than I could have even hoped for. She's been with us for a week now, so I'm really hoping you pass this bylaw.
Really. Okay, I get you saying. Good. All right. Maybe if our camera operator could just pan the camera over, we can actually see her on the screen. And then for those of us that are wearing glasses that are out of focus, I'll actually be able to see who that is. Oh, hey, Celine. Welcome aboard. Nice to see you. Council, you have the bylaw in front of you. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries unanimous. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. Okay. Got to turn the page here. Prescribe the rate of speed for Brock Street and Elm Street. Okay, recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 2453, being a bylaw to prescribe a rate of speed for motor vehicles driven on certain public highways, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 22nd day of July, 2024. Moved by Councillor Broderick, seconded by Mr. Walker. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the bylaw. All in favor? The bylaw carries unanimous. Thank you. Community safety zone also on Brock Street. Be it resolved that bylaw 2454, being a bylaw to delegate parts of highways as community safety zones, be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on this 22nd day of July, 2024. The community safety zone bylaw, may I have that moved by Mr. Walker? And I can have it seconded by Mr. Broderick. Thank you very much. And you have the bylaw in front of you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the bylaw in favor. And that bylaw carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Beelan has a notice of motion, which is here on our agenda. This will be discussed August the 12th. Thank you very much, Mr. Beelan, for bringing it forward. We'll look forward to this discussion then. Bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our council meeting. Be it resolved, bylaw 2451, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the July 22nd, 2024 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time. Finally passed on the 22nd day of July, 2024. Moved by Deneen, thank you. Seconded by Walker, thank you. All those in favor? That bylaw carries unanimous. And we have the motion to adjourn. If there's nothing further for the business of the township, motion to adjourn. Time is 7:19, according to my clock. We'll see what it says on August the 12th when we get to our new clock. Recommendation, be it resolved, the council meeting adjourned at 7:19. Can I have that by Mr. MacArthur and Mr. Van Staveren? All those in favor? Thank you. Enjoy the summer nights and enjoy the civic holiday weekend, not that far away. Thank you, everyone.